There are many beauties about being Catholic. There are many beautiful aspects of our faith. Our faith is so rich, so deep, so beautiful. There's a lot to dig into. And this evening, I would like to dig into one of those aspects, which I'll touch on here in just a moment. What I'd like to do is to touch on this beauty in the context of the gospel that we have here today. The gospel, which is certainly a challenging gospel. Whoever does not love me more than father, mother, brother, or sister is not worthy of me. Whoever does not love me more than themselves, is not worthy of me. And so we see that Jesus must be our first love, even above our spouse. Even above our spouse. That's just something to really bring to prayer. Even above our children, that's something really to bring to prayer. What does it mean? How does that look? How is that carried out in my life? But it is a beautiful thing. The truth of the matter is, if we love Jesus above even our wife, above even our children, above even our husband, if we love Jesus above even ourselves, we are able to love everyone else so much more truly, so much more beautifully, so much more beneficially to them and to us. And so to love Jesus is to love others more. Although, once again, Jesus may call us in a direction that others may not agree with, and we may need to love others, as they say, with tough love, gospel love, which may bring some challenges, to be sure. But it is always something that's better for the other person and better for ourselves when we love Jesus first, and then we love them second. And I would like to display that in one of these beauties of our Catholic faith, because tomorrow is a beautiful, historic in a certain way day. It's a historic day because we're going to have the canonization of two young people in our Catholic faith. This beauty of our Catholic faith is the communion of saints. What a beautiful reality that we have friends in heaven who are rooting for us and who want to intercede for us and who give us a good example and who live their lives in a particular time, in a particular place, in a particular way, and we can see how they made it, So we can see how we can make it in our own particular time, with our own particular circumstances. The communion of saints is one of the great treasures of our Catholic faith. And tomorrow, two are going to be canonized by Pope Leo, the first two that he will canonize. There may be more than these two, so I can't say the first two only, because I didn't look that deeply into it. But these two will be canonized, and they are the first by Pope Leo. The first is, and they're so young, is Blessed Carlo Acutis. He's going to be the first millennial saint, the first saint who was born in the new millennium. He was only 15 when he died. Children, teenagers, you have a saint now to look up to. And I'm going to tell you about that saint, and you may know about him because he's becoming quite popular, Carlo Acutis, the first millennial saint. And the other one is likewise quite young, 24 years old when he died. 24 years old when he died, Pier Giorgio Frassati, Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. And you know, they share something in common that kind of fits in with this gospel. They loved Jesus first. And they loved Jesus so much that they brought their parents to Jesus. These children brought their parents to Jesus. We think of it the other way around, as it should be, that parents bring their children to Jesus. But Carlo Acutis and Pier Giorgio Frassati brought their parents to Jesus. Pier Giorgio Frassati, his parents, he grew up in a wealthy family in Italy, and his father owned a newspaper company, and he was a highfalutin executive. And so he had great wealth, and they had servants, and he was not in want for anything, Pier Giorgio. I think he died in, I didn't look it up, maybe around 1925, I'm going to guess somewhere in there. And Pier Giorgio loved God, and he loved the church, and he loved to love others. And he had all kinds of heroic and charitable things that he did for others, especially the poor. He reached out to them in love, and he gave them a lot of what he had, which was wealth in different ways because of the affluence of his family. The little thing I'm going to say and end with Pier Giorgio, I'm going to talk more about Carlos Acutis, but Pier Giorgio, he heard that his parents were going to get divorced. He heard that his parents were going to get divorced. And that broke his heart. And he said to a friend, shortly before he got ill, he said, I would gladly die so that my parents would stay together. It's how heartbreaking it is for children to see their parents not being together, not staying together. And so he would rather die so that they might stay together. And the story that I heard is that shortly thereafter he contracted polio and he died. And then so many people came to his funeral that his parents were like, what? What's this? All the poor people he reached out to, people he helped, and they were flabbergasted. And they stayed together. And they came to God. And Pier Giorgio, 24 years old, was the means for that, among many other graces that God bestowed upon them. The second, Carlo Acutis, died at just the tender age of 15. And of course, for both of these, we can see quite a few photos if you go online, and a lot about them, to be sure. In Carlos Acutis, we can see videos of him, the first millennial saint, as I said. It's interesting because his mother, I haven't heard his father speak much, but his mother said that she had been in church 3 times. She was Catholic. She'd been to church, to Mass, for her first communion, her confirmation, and her marriage before Carlo got a hold of her. And he had a great devotion. Go online and listen to her interview. It's just amazing. Carlo loved the Eucharist. He loved to come to Mass, and he loved to spend time in Eucharistic adoration, and he loved to share with others about this greatest mystery we could ever find on earth that is of benefit to us, the Mass, the Holy Eucharist, Eucharistic adoration, Jesus truly, really, substantially present, Emmanuel, God with us. Oh, you and I are Catholics and we take it for granted, right? You and I are Catholics and we take it for granted. Yeah, that's what we do every Sunday. But he didn't take it for granted. He actually was able to receive First Communion early. And his mother said of him, Carlo was really the means by which God used to make me understand that Jesus is really present in the Blessed Sacrament. The way he spoke about the Eucharist, that really Jesus is present in the Blessed Sacrament. And for her, she came back to Jesus by his love for Jesus in general and his love for Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. He would bring them to church because he wanted to go to church. And so he had this great influence on them. So these are two to be saints tomorrow who brought their parents to God, to Jesus. I'm going to talk a little bit about Blessed Carlo Acutis. Here's a couple of his quotes. They're so short and so concise and so powerful. I think this is the foundational quote. Here's his quote: to be always close to Jesus. That's my life plan. A 15-year-old, I don't know, maybe he was 14 or 13 when he said this. To always be close to Jesus, that's the plan of my life. He said, everyone is born as an original. God makes us all unique. But many of us die as photocopies. We want to be like the others. But God creates us as unique individuals. And he understood that we're called to fulfill that unique individual plan that God has for each of us. 2 other quotes. He loved the Eucharist. He said, the Eucharist is my highway to heaven. It's my highway to heaven. And finally, the quote, Mary is the only woman for me. Mary is the only woman for me. Carlo Acutis. A few things more that his mother said about him. It's like Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa says, first we see Jesus hidden in the Holy Eucharist, and then we go and we see Jesus hidden in the poor that we serve. And so Carlo's mother said he loved the poor, and he loved kids that were picked on. Carlo couldn't remain indifferent to the poor. When he was about 9 years old, he started to buy sleeping bags and blankets, and he started to bring meals to people. he started organizing himself like a little charity. Another piece of Carlo's life, he was a millennial. You know what he liked to do, right? What did they like to do, born after 2000? They liked the video games. He liked video games. PlayStation, his mother said. When he was 8 years old, he received the PlayStation as a gift. But Carlo had a deep love for God, and he had a deep understanding of things. And so she said, but Carlo had read in the newspaper that in the United States, a lot of young people were in clinics and hospitals because they were addicted to video games. Uh-oh, here you go, parents. You got some ammunition. Got some ammunition. Children, are you listening up? He loved video games. And so he said, no, I don't want this. I will use it, his PlayStation, a maximum of 1 hour a week. There you go. That's what you can tell your kids. I can see one kid that's not happy. He's kind of going like this. Sorry. So he's a millennial saint. We can learn a lot from him. This is what his postulator said, the one who puts forward the cause of the canonization for Carlo Acutis. He said, I must say that I was immediately fascinated by the brevity of his life and by the intensity of his spirituality, his experience with God. He was not only able to transmit, but also to engage his peers in this adventure towards God. PlayStation, video games, that's an adventure, right? You're trying to kill the enemy, you're trying to win the game. There's a better game, there's a deeper game, there's a more real game, the greater adventure, and that is what Carlo was entering into, his relationship with God, but he also engaged his peers in this adventure towards God, in this search for the divine, in the search for the supernatural. Carlo traced out the path for everyone, but in particular for his peers. His spirituality, what was that like? I already told you the two pillars of his spirituality were the Eucharist and devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. The essence of Carlo's spirituality is the Eucharist and devotion to the Virgin Mary. These are his two pillars. He lives as a soul in love with the Eucharist. Wouldn't that be great if that was true for us? And maybe it is true for us. I live as a soul who is in love with the Eucharist. So his entire life was centered on the Eucharist. His entire life was centered around the Eucharist, participation in the Mass, Eucharistic adoration, and making Jesus known to others in the Holy Eucharist. That's one thing that you and I can do better as Catholics. Making known the greatest gift that God has given to humanity, Jesus and the Holy Eucharist. Can you imagine how many people would love to know that? Can you imagine who knows it? Can you imagine what we can do? And maybe we need to know it more deeply so that we can do it. And I would encourage you, tomorrow's a beautiful day. 2 young people are going to be, ordained. 2 young people are going to be canonized. Ask them for a particular grace that you need in your life. And maybe it might be that you might spread the beauty of our Catholic faith to others in a way that's particular to you. Carlos said we don't have to be photocopies. We're all unique and individuals, and God works through each of us individually and differently. But we're all called to proclaim the good news as Carlo did, because if we don't proclaim the good news, then we're kind of selfish. We're kind of keeping it all to ourselves. And I don't want to say anything. Why don't you want to say anything? Is this important or is it not important? Well, it's kind of important, but I'm kind of embarrassed. Well, do it in a way that you can. Take a little step forward and do it in a way you can. Carlo took a huge step forward. You may know what he did. He set up a Eucharistic exhibition with his computer skills so that he went on the computer and he researched all the Eucharistic miracles. And he wanted people to know about the Eucharistic miracles, because if they knew about the Eucharistic miracles, they would believe in Jesus and the Eucharist. And that was the greatest treasure that he could find in his life. He wanted to share it. And the Virgin Mary was the only woman in his life. He didn't want to miss the date that he had with her to recite the rosary. For him, reciting the rosary was about speaking with Mary every day in the ordinary moments of life. And the postulator went on to say that we know that he was a computer genius. He was a computer genius studying from university textbooks despite being only in middle school. From a technical standpoint, he would have been an engineer, this postulator said. But what did he do with this? Oh my goodness, here's another beautiful lesson for us. What do we do with our talents? What do we do? They're not mine. They're not yours. They're a gift given by God, and God wants us to plant them so that they can be fruitful and produce much fruit in his kingdom. He put his talent to the service of the faith. He created a website for his parish in Milan, Italy. Then he managed to create, as I said, the famous exhibition of the Eucharistic miracles, which traveled all the way around the world. You know, 2 computer experts analyzed his computer, this postulator said, because they look at everything before someone can become a saint. And this is what they said. Everything that they viewed and everything in it, they reviewed everything in it and everything about computers. The 2 computer experts said that they found that there was nothing that was unusual about what he looked at. Everything was focused on his search for the good. Oh, God, bless us. Carlo Acutis, you're going to be canonized tomorrow. Help us so that when we go on the computer, only it will be for good. Only for good. You did it. We are struggling with it, Carlo. Please help us to turn away from all the junk that's on the internet and to turn towards all the good. You brought so many people to Jesus by searching out the good on the internet. He would visit websites to deepen his knowledge, whether searching for photos for an operatic voice or researching an exhibition about the Blessed Virgin Mary or figures of holiness. So he used the web in a clean, honest way. Doesn't that just feel good to say? He used the web in a clean, honest way. Carlo would be a good intercessor for us to do the same. He was a normal teenager, the postulator said. He was a young man like any other, identical like any other, identical in being a young man. He loved to play. He loved to have fun. He would go out with his friends. He loved animals. He had many cats. He would make videos with them, inventing stories. And he would dress up like superheroes. There's one photo of him as Spider-Man. 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 But in all this, he would incorporate his faith. That's the key to life. Incorporate our faith with everything. Our work, our play, our friends, our home, whatever it is. He was a boy. He loved to play soccer. He liked to take trips in the countryside. He loved to swim. He was a boy like others. But he had something extra. This secret with him. It was his friendship with Jesus. His friendship with Jesus. This is what a couple young people said about him, who actually had a big conversion because of him. Carlo has always been our point of reference. Seeing a young person who lived his faith so deeply, so seriously, who took this path with such intensity at such a young age, is deeply inspiring. Carlo did something extremely simple, yet incredibly powerful, and that made me think that I can do it too. Dear parents and godparents and grandparents, introduce your young people to Carlo, because they can listen to a priest talk and they can write them off. They can listen to a grandma and grandma talk and they might be able to write them off. They can listen to a parent talk and they can write them off. It's hard to write off somebody who's 15 years old when you're 15 years old. It's just hard to do. Another person said, sainthood isn't some distant idea. It can be lived right here and right now, in the ordinary moments of life. They learned this from Carlo Acutis because he was a very ordinary boy. And the last quote here, for me, Carlo Acutis proved that sainthood is possible. It is possible. And that being holy doesn't mean being perfect. Holiness is within reach. I believe Carlo helps us to redefine what holiness means. Holiness, we might say, means to always be close to Jesus. Holiness, we might say, is have the Eucharist be your highway to heaven. Holiness, we might say, is to have Mary, maybe not before our wife even, because then we'll love our wives more. To have Mary be the only woman for me, not the only woman, but have Mary be the number one woman for me, because then our wife will be loved more by me. And as Carlos said, we are born as originals. God created each of us uniquely. Carlo took his unique gifts and he invested them for the poor, for those who were picked on. He invested him for his mother to bring her to Jesus in the Holy Eucharist. He invested him for the whole world, for this Eucharistic miracle exposition, so that people could see the beauty of the greatest beauty that there is in Holy Eucharist. For young people, so that they could find a way to Jesus. You are created as an individual and original, and I am too. Let's not die as photocopies. How has God given me gifts, and how is he calling me to use those gifts? I'll tell you what, here's the source of it all. Jesus at the Mass. Jesus in the Holy Eucharist. Jesus' love flowing into us. He can do marvelous things through the gifts that he's given us when we allow him in his love in the Holy Eucharist.